Hi guys, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery, and I'm located in Van.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Highland Heights, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Did you start? You started.
It started. It's live. We're live.
We're live.
Hello, everybody. Hi,
Hello.
Becca.
Hello.
All right, so we have a guest today.
Huzzah!
We have Bethany Kramer here. She's a local to me. She's only, I don't know how, you're probably like 15 minutes from me.
Yeah. If that.
Yeah, really close, really close. So I've known Bethany for quite a few years. I don't know, like probably 7, 8 years by now. Longer than that, maybe college. I don't know how much we interacted around college time at NKU, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's been quite a few years. Mostly through like Clay Alliance and doing a lot of local shows and whatnot. So, Bethany, how do you like to introduce yourself?
Oh. I don't know. You said my name, Bethany Kramer. So my business name is Bethany Rose Pottery. And I've been doing ceramics since college. That's when I started at NKU. And that was, when did I graduate? 2007. And I've just been doing it ever since. I worked a lot at Funky Fired Arts was the name of it then. It's now Queen City Clay. But now I'm just working out of my studio at home, which has been wonderful. So I've been here, since like 2016, 2017 is probably when I actually started working out of here. So.
Okay. And where is here? Where are you located?
This is in Melbourne, Kentucky. So it's right on the Ohio River. Yeah, just like 20 minutes from Cincinnati.
Yeah, you're like right down the river parkway or whatever that's called, Mary Inglis.
Yes.
Oh shit! I wasn't following you, but I am now.
You know where I am
Found
now?
her on Instagram.
Found her.
Where's is the Bethany the Roses? I'm guessing your middle name.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been doing what were you doing at Funky Fired Arts back in the day?
So I started there as an assistant teacher, kind of worked my way up from there, and then I was the studio manager. And I did special event coordinating. I taught all different levels of classes, intro classes. One of my favorite classes was called a food and pots class. So the students would come up with a dish, like a recipe, and then they would create the vessel to like hold that dish, the food. And then at the end of the class, we would take pictures they would finish their piece that they made and then cook their food, bringing it in. We would take pictures, have this big feast, and then I would make a big cookbook from everything everyone made. So that was like always the best.
Oh, that's cool. So was that considered an advanced class?
What, Ryan?
Was it an advanced class?
Yeah.
Becca, what were you gonna say?
If I did that class, I guarantee that whatever I made in the dish would overflow over the dish. Like, absolutely positive. I just made a pot pie in the largest baking dish that I've ever made in my life, and it overflowed. Like, it is impossible. No. It would look awful.
You just gotta spruce it up. Just clean it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So was it a mixture of baking dishes and serving dishes? So people would make the food and then they would like plate it?
Yes. Yeah. So I did a lot of different things. Sometimes we would just focus on like soups and salads. So they would basically be like a large serving bowl or whatever, maybe with a lid on it or something. Yeah, we did serving dishes, dessert plates, kind of thing. It was all over the board. But I did that for several years, so I have a, I don't know, handful of.
It became like a staple class there.
Yes, it was so fun. So,
sweet.
But
Do
yeah.
you teach any more these days?
No, I don't. The last class I think I taught was in 2018, back at Queen City Clay. Well, and I taught at Baker Hunt.
I think you did a workshop, right? Was that a paired food and?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What was that one?
So that one we did, I think we did like just trays, and then they did the cooking class, which I wasn't a part of. And they made tacos to like serve on.
Okay, I kind of remember that. Did you make the wavy trays like the taco holders?
No, we didn't. We
Okay.
just made flat. I have yet to make one of those.
That's on my to-do list. I keep wanting to do that. Every time we make tacos at home, I'm like, I need to make a taco tray.
Yeah.
And it's not that complicated. I mean, I probably need to roll out slabs and stuff, but I can make it work.
All right. Next time I am in Kentucky, we're making fucking taco trays because I got a slab roller. Let's go.
I was thinking of a way to do it thrown and like do the wiggle wire maybe to like give a little texture. Like throw a big disc, wiggle wire it, and then cut kind of a rectangle and then fold it. But I don't know that it would be wide enough to get like enough for 3 tacos. That's probably kind of pushing it, but
yeah, it'd have to be a big plate to start with.
Yeah.
But that would look cool.
Yeah.
You should try it.
I know. It's on my to-do list. We'll see if it ever gets off there. Well, it sounds like Becca's going to make it.
Oh, it will.
Once I get, because I don't have a slab roller, so I don't really need one.
Do you know what works as a fantastic taco holder, actually? A sponge holder.
Ooh, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you could just make like a really wide cylinder and just cut 3 slots in it.
Yeah, it'd have to be an oval, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You can just oval it and cut the. Okay, that sounds a little more flexible to use the wheel and hand building, and you don't need a bottom on it really. So.
There you go.
Okay, I like the idea.
Go team.
Yeah. So you're making a lot of plates these days, right? Like you're rolling. You do some slab work, you do some wheel work too, right?
Yes. Yep. So I would say the majority of my work over the last, I don't know, decade has been plates. Just
I'm so sorry.
plates.
Wheel thrown plates?
Mostly wheel thrown plates. I do a lot of hand building too. I haven't recently, just in the last year, probably not as much, but a lot of the restaurant work, it was probably half and half. Like I did some oval plates and some rectangle slab built plates as well. And so it was a nice balance to do that. But yeah, definitely the majority has been wheel thrown. So
Wow.
I can do them pretty fast at this point. So it's not so bad.
Okay.
Hey, no. Listen, I love throwing a plate. Throwing plates is so much fun. What I hate is loading plates. Loading plates and kilns can just go all the way away. Okay.
They do take up a ton of space.
They take up so much.
Yeah. You have to plan for that.
So what's your secret for making it
Facts.
efficiently? Is it just throwing and just what do you got? How do you do them quick and well?
Well, it helps if your clay is not hard as a rock. So I like to be a little softer for plates. It doesn't always happen, but I mean that's ideal. And yeah, I don't know. I definitely have to get my whole body into it, and I use kind of more of the heel of my palm and my wrist. So when I press down to center, that's what I use to center. I use the heel of my palm and then just swing it out towards my body. So I can pretty much make a plate in 2 motion, centering and then swinging out after I center, 2 pretty quick motions, and then lifting the rim up at the end there. But when I'm pushing down and centering and pulling out, that gets all of my compression in, so I don't have to do a ton of compression. I do clean up with a metal rib at the end, just not necessarily for compression. Obviously, it does help, but to clean it up just to make it look nice.
Because your clay's got a little. Does it have a grit to it? The primary clay that you use, or do you use multiple clay bodies?
I used to use a whole bunch of different kinds, but I have just pared down. Basically, when I moved out here, I kind of switched all of that around, and I'm just using standard 259. So it does have some grog to it. Not like heavy.
Okay.
But yeah.
Have you used that, or have you heard of that strong arm? Have you ever tried that or used that before?
That's like to press down the clay.
Yeah, and some people center with it, like large amounts of clay. I don't know if you can do plates with it, but
Yeah, I have not. I've never
Okay.
tried that. Mm-mm.
Have you ever tried the rolling pin trick?
I've seen that, but no. Have I done that? I want to say maybe I did that when I, making like really, really big, just like platters, not for plates.
Yeah.
That probably would save your arms and wrists. But with the clay being
yeah.
it's not a big deal.
How are you softening it? Are you using a pug mill, plugging it out with certain amounts so that it's actually fairly soft, or are you just dropping on the ground or wedging it, or what?
So I'll use fresh from the bag, but if the bag is sitting, around for any amount of time, it usually gets a little harder. So I will throw it into, I have a pug mill, and I'll add some, slop to it and make it softer if I need to. That's me being like super picky. Back in the day, I definitely didn't do all that, and I just used what I had. But then you get into when you're using clay that's harder and softer, your shrinkage rates are all over the place. So that can become tricky. But, it's hard to, unless you're like measuring out each batch, which I'm not doing,
Yeah. Are they all pretty consistent, like width-wise? Are they all pretty much like 3 pounds, 11-inch play, or something like that? Like you're not throwing much more than like 3 to 5 pounds?
No, I do. So the largest plate I really do on a consistent basis is 10 inches. That's a popular size. I've done larger, but for that I'll use 4 pounds.
Okay,
So
that's the finished size, 10-inch.
Finished size, yeah. But I do trim the underside, so I have a foot on the bottom.
Okay.
So that takes away some of that clay.
And you're making so many because these are going to restaurants, is that correct? Or are you doing some dinnerware sets for customers?
Yes, both. And yeah, the majority of my work has been for restaurants, but I've done a lot of sets for people just basically because that's the work I have coming out already for the restaurants. People see that and they ask a lot for that. So that's kind of been the thing. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. How are you spending your time these days? I don't follow you too much because I feel like social media, if you don't know what's going on social media, I'm like, I don't know what she's up to.
Well, yeah, I've been off social media probably since Nsika in Cincinnati.
Wow.
I don't know. I maybe have gotten on there a little bit since then, but
yeah.
It's been pretty nice to just kind of hide away and do my own thing for a little bit here. So my restaurant business was really strong before COVID hit. That's kind of like the breaking point up for a lot of people, I guess. A lot of the restaurants closed, obviously, and so it kind of stopped for a while. I still had been making a lot of stuff for people then, so I was still able to get that out through that year. I honestly wanted to slow down. I have 2 little boys, so they are 5 and 7 years old now. But then, they were pretty little, and so I had wanted to kind of cut back work a little bit. So COVID definitely helped that out. So I've kind of cut back a lot, but I'm still doing just smaller restaurants. I had a client that was a restaurant group. So at one point I was doing 4 restaurants for him down like all around Miami and Florida. And he wanted to keep working with me after COVID, but I kind of said, well, let's hold back a little bit until the boys get a little older and they're both in school, which will already be next year. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. So We'll see if something comes from that again. But I've continued the relationship with Baker's Table, which is a restaurant in Newport, Kentucky. So they're smaller. They seat maybe like 40 people. And then Jose Salazar, he's got several restaurants in Cincinnati. And so that's actually what I'm currently working on right now, is for a new place for him.
Okay. So how many pieces are these typical orders?
So it's really been all over the place. Do you want to know, like, just in general, like making for restaurants?
Yeah. Well, first, before COVID, how long had you been doing the restaurants before kind of COVID hit?
So I think my first restaurant was in 2012.
Wow.
That was for a little place up in Chicago. That's no longer there. But so like, for example, that place, I made 30 plates and 30 like dessert plates. So the first ones were like big 11-inch plates that were altered rims, and then the dessert trays were hand built, and I don't know, they were interesting shape to them. So that was pretty small to start, and then Salazar, the first restaurant I did for him, I think was like a little less than 150 pieces to start with, like 7 different items, I believe it was. And that restaurant same thing, it was about 40 people, as the Baker's Table is about the same size. But then you get into the larger restaurants. So then I've done Nada, which is in Cincinnati and Columbus and Indianapolis, and they've got some other locations. But those were the 3 main ones I did, and I just made the taco plates for them.
Is not a like a tapas bar sort of situation?
I wouldn't
It's a
say
Mexican
so.
restaurant.
Yeah, they have like full service and
Okay.
yeah. But that did like 300 taco plates to start with.
And those were the hand-built ones, the rectangular kind of, I don't know, 6-inch by 9-inch or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty long actually. They were like 15 inches, but they would serve them like open-faced kind of tacos down the plate. And so, just kind of keep building those restaurants in Florida I was talking about. They were huge, like sat maybe 300 people.
Yeah.
At the
I
beach.
remember when one of them opened down in Pompano Beach, because
Yes.
I used to go down to Fort Lauderdale all the time for work, and I meant to try to get down there because I think it was opening right around COVID or something, maybe.
Yeah, it was right before.
I didn't happen to get down there when it had opened, because I was like waiting, but
yeah. But yeah, for that place, for Beach House in Pompano Beach, that was like over 700 pieces just for the original order. So then they would order more after that, but to get them started, like that was probably the biggest order I had at once.
So is there like normally a fraction, like a ratio of number of seats to number of pieces, or is it just like based on what they think?
Yeah. I don't know. And it kind of depends too. Like Salazar, when he first started, he got all of my work for the restaurant. So it was just solid, like handmade pottery. And a lot of the places, and Baker's Table is the same way. But then like Nada, for example, they just had the handmade taco plates, and everything else was a commercially made piece. So it all definitely varies just based on the place and how many people they have coming through, and
breakage and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
How much are you like how do you figure out how much you're going to charge for these type of things?
So I mean, definitely it's just like anything else, a total breakdown of my cost of everything, my material costs, my labor for that. So when I was first starting out, I would price it in batches. So, making 20 plates, and it takes me 2 hours to make 20 plates or whatever. So I would figure it out by batches of plates, and that made it a little bit easier. And then I would break down all the costs of the glaze and the clay and all that stuff. And then your hourly rate, adding percentage for admin work. I mean, I'm sure you guys have talked about this a lot on your other shows too. But in terms of figuring out like a wholesale kind of price, I've done some different things. Most commonly, I basically, or what I found to work well was I had, if you ordered over 40 pieces, I would take 40% off of my retail price. So, and then I kind of had a system, like if it was 30 pieces, it would be 30% off 20, 20% off 10% off. But I never really ran into that because, most of them are ordering over 40 of an item. So that was pretty much a standard. It would be 40% off of a retail price. Now I've kind of gotten my pricing down where it's the same across the board for everything, because I do sell in some shops too, and so I just do a 50-50 kind of split between wholesale and retail.
Did you already sell a lot of those forms retail before you decided? Because I know sometimes it can get tricky with making. Had you already been selling plates that you're confident in at a certain price and feeling like it was worth it before you were taking on the restaurant orders? Because it kind of feels wholesale, but it kind of doesn't, because they're not necessarily going to reorder within the year.
Right.
So it feels different, but.
Yeah, it is. It is a little different. I do get a ton of business from the restaurants, so it's different in that way. So I'm either getting new restaurant clients from previous restaurant work, or I'm getting individuals that are seeing my work. A lot of times the servers would talk about my work, and they could mention me by name, and I had business cards at a lot of the places too. So I got a lot of the personal dinner sets that way too. But yeah, starting out, it was definitely just figuring out, okay, what do I need to sell this for to cover my costs and to make it worth it for my time, and then, and Salazar and I really attribute a lot to him for helping me, to launch my career in the restaurant business. We really were working together because he was doing his first restaurant, and designing the whole thing, and being a chef owner, so it's a little different when you get to design the whole thing and plate all of your dishes too. So that was really fun to really work with him and talk about the whole feeling of the whole restaurant, the overall feeling he wanted to get with the dinnerware, and how it all works together. And he was on a super limited budget. So those first plates, I was hardly making any money. And of course, when you're first starting out doing anything, any new form or whatever, there's a ton of loss. At least for me, there is.
That's where you sell them at your second sale at the holidays, from what I remember. I'm assuming
Yes.
you're still doing that. But.
Yeah. So, with all of the mistakes with the pieces and all of that, I probably just broke even at that point. But after that first one, I learned very quickly I've got to put in a buffer and add a certain percentage to my cost, to my material cost and my labor cost, to cover all that admin work that you don't think of right away, or I didn't think of that right away. And just all of the other business expenses, once you get into your taxes and see, oh yeah, all these other expenses, that's got to get figured into your overhead. So I had to really get down to the nitty gritty and, add that into my fixed cost. And then, get to the retail price point from there, if that makes sense.
Do you charge them sales tax on it, or is that?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not reselling it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So early on, you were so with the So how did that work with the budget? Because if he's got a budget, does he tell you that number and he's like, how many can I get with this? And then you just tweak the type of plates or the size of the plates or the quantity, and he, oh, I'd rather only have your pieces with these plates and have more of them than to have two of your forms, but fewer.
Yeah, so the biggest cost difference, so then, I was firing with the gas kiln and the electric kiln. So the gas kiln cost a lot more. So at first, and he liked the look better at the time, but we didn't do a whole lot. We did a lot of electric work just because it cost me less at that time. So we could kind of cut corners that way a little bit. And also with the glaze option. So some glazes would cost me more, or if it was a layering of glazes, that might cost more. So kind of paring down that way, we could save a little bit. So there was definitely some talking through all of that in the beginning. And but in the end, he's really making this a part of his whole restaurant and his whole idea for it. So
right.
Some things he didn't want to give on and that kind of thing.
And then I would guess you've got a good rapport going forward when a new restaurant opens with him, or how do you I'm guessing you go into those conversations more confident, whether it's him or somebody else that's coming to you. You just have this experience under your belt, so you kind of know what's important for you to put forward, so that they're not kind of like, I don't want to say pushing you around, but like telling you what they want, and then you have to contour to what their expectations are.
Yeah. So definitely in the beginning, it was a lot of like the chefs or the owners coming in and saying, "This is what I want. Can you do it?" It's like, well, I can try, and really working to what they wanted. But then now it's more of, here's what I have to offer. Come choose from what I have already made and know how to make. So that it's way different. It's way easier, obviously putting in all the time and having that experience. But I try to stay away from real custom work and just, show people what I've already done and they can select from that. So that's how I go about it now. But starting out, I was just trying to get a foot in the door and just kind of trying to do whatever I could to make it work.
Yeah. So these days, do you have like a quote unquote line sheet or wholesale sheet, kind of like you would have for a shop that's going to buy wholesale from you, and that's kind of what you show them for what's available?
I have had that in the past. Yes, I have like a little example right here. And it helps too, like when restaurants would reorder from me, I would have like an order sheet based on that. And yeah, I would go from there. But a lot of times now it's so personal working with the smaller ones. I just have them come over to my studio and we'll look through things. But for the restaurants that were far away, like I originally created an order form with a pricing sheet and breakdown for the restaurants in Florida, because the owner was here in Cincinnati and I could talk to him, but then all the managers at a certain point were the ones that were starting to order and kind of handle the restaurants. And so communicating with them became a lot more of a challenge. And I kind of found that across the board with all the restaurants. Like once the person who was, originally involved with me making the decisions on what they wanted for the restaurant, once they kind of stepped out and other people came in, it wasn't their baby anymore.
They inherited it and they're like, well, we kind of have a contract of some sort and we got to see this through.
Yeah. So that was always a little bit more of a challenge. So I was always trying to come up with ways to make it more streamlined and just make communication easier. So that came into play then, definitely. Yeah.
Becca, do you have a question?
Well, I guess, how did you get your first gig? Like, how did they find you?
Well, the first one, so I was working at, I guess it was still Funky Fine Arts at the time. one of the studio members, his son was a chef up in Chicago. So he had, the connection was there. And so I made some of the plates, and then a couple of my coworkers made some of the other pieces for the restaurant. But then for Salazar, I was set up at a farmer's market down the street from me where I was living at the time. And I would just go every Saturday. I hardly made any money.
Where was that? Which one?
In Bellevue.
Bellevue Farmers Market?
Yes.
I think they still do it, but I think it's only once a month now. But
well, they did bring something back. This one, it was every Saturday, but it only lasted for a year. Like this particular one that I was in.
Oh, okay. There's so
but-
many up here. Each of the little cities have their own, so it's
Yes.
no shortage.
Yep. But it was fun, and that's where chefs go. I did a lot of shows at Findlay Market, not shows. I would set up to sell at Findlay Market as well, which is like the big Cincinnati market. And tons of chefs would come and talk to me there too, because they're going there for the food, to talk to the farmers. And so I would meet chefs that way. But yeah, Salazar picked up my business card, I guess, because he contacted me a year later and told me he, had saw my work at the market.
Wow.
And he left a voicemail. I will never forget this. He said, yeah, I'm just interested in getting some things from you. And he left his name and number. Well, here I'm thinking he wants like 2 coffee cups or something.
Did he tell you his name?
Yeah, he did. But at that point, I think he was working for the Cincinnatian, which is like a nice hotel downtown and with a restaurant. But he didn't have any of his own places going then. So, yeah.
Wow, that's a good lesson there from going to farmers markets. It can pay off if you're in the right circles there, if the right people come through.
Yes. Yep.
It definitely paid for itself.
I encourage people, if that's kind of the route you want to go. I mean, those are the people, just meeting all the farmers and talking to them all the time, because they're supplying the restaurant, at least the restaurants, I would say, that are more interested in carrying homemade, handcrafted things, artisan things. They're going farm to table kind of thing. And not all the restaurants I did were necessarily like that, but that's definitely a good place to start.
Is it hard to? I'm guessing if they're coming to you, they already kind of know the value of handmade and the price of what they're getting themselves into. But are you having to sell that in a way, or are they already bought into, hey, this is what it's going to cost me? Because I don't know what the comparable price is for a plate that's factory made versus a handmade one when a restaurant's buying it. But I would guess it makes no financial sense to do it. But for them, it's about the aesthetic and the vibe and the experience they want for the customer. So,
right. Yeah. And honestly, some of the higher end commercially made pieces are pretty similar in price. I was kind of surprised. I've gone and looked a long time ago, so I don't know what it would be now, but I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh, maybe I should be charging more for my stuff.
Where do they buy that at? Where are they buying that kind of dinnerware at?
Well, there's big conventions for like restaurant supplies stuff for their dinnerware and, equipment and different things. So I've seen, people set up with that. And then I've seen lots of different things online too, just wholesalers and.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a little higher than, if they've already bought stuff in the past, or if they're coming right, starting something new. They know that it's going to cost more, and they're prepared for that typically.
Yeah. You mentioned signing your work. Do they always let you sign your work, or is it up? I would assume you always want to, so that you can get your name out there. But do you have to get approval kind of to do that?
I've always signed my work. Well, besides maybe ramekins, I've made thousands of ramekins. And
Facts.
they're just so little. I don't know. It's just like,
some of them were slip cast too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Dude,
did. Oh, go ahead, Becca.
I was gonna say, dude, I hate signing my work. Like after doing production, like F that. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there definitely have been lots that have gone through without me signing, just because it's hard to do all of them. I don't know when you're working with such a high quantity, but people would tell me all the time they flip my plate over at a restaurant, and I actually sign like with a pen.
Yeah, it's a very nice signature. It's very legible.
Well, thank
It's
you,
it's
Ryan.
very attractive signature that's like I know exactly what I'm looking at.
Right.
It's not indescript and it's not a scribble,
Right. You can read it, and people have searched Bethany Rose Pottery or ceramics, whatever, and they find me online too. So I've gotten a lot of customers that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I know you've kind of ebbed and flowed with having staff and people help you. How has that changed over time and when it was right for you to have help and not?
Yeah. So, well, pretty much right away. So I did Salazar, was like the first big one on my own. And then I got Nada the next year. And which for them, I met the person, the creative designer for Nada. So that was with the Boca restaurant group. So they have a bunch of restaurants other than the Nadas. But anyway, a mutual friend, well, this creative designer went to a mutual friend's house and she saw my work there. So that's how I got that one. It was a little different. But we kind of went through the design process. And once we figured out what they wanted, then they're like, okay, well, we would like 300 in 2 months. It's like,
Oh my gosh.
okay. Can I do that? I don't know. So there was a girl that was at the studio at the time. She had taken some classes from me, and I asked her if she would help me. I think she had just graduated from college, like that summer. This was like in this, May or June when we had finalized everything. And so I asked her if she would help me, and she pretty much started right away helping me. And then she ended up, this is Linnea, and she's got her own.
Linnea, yep. Linnea Campbell.
Call her out, Linnea Campbell Ceramics. She's got her own business now, but she pretty much took over all taco plate making.
Because the 300, was that a mixture of throne plates, taco plates, which were hand built, and ramekins, or?
No, so Nada was just the taco plates. So
okay, right.
Yeah, I ended up on 3 different sizes for their different restaurants, but they were all glazed the same, which they gave me a lot of creative liberty with that, which was amazing. So those were really fun to do, but we ended up getting that down to where they would order. It basically was 60. It was 20 of each size every 2 months. So I knew.
For how long?
So I don't know. I mean, that probably lasted, well, right up until COVID. So I started in 2015 with them.
Whoa.
So it was like, well, and it took a while to figure out, they ordered 300, and then I don't know, like 4 months later, I think they ordered like another 100. And then 6 months later, they ordered like 150 or something.
Okay.
And
So you were just continually making some to have some stock because they're going to order them at some point?
Well, I mean, I didn't really know because it was the first really big restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Salazar didn't. He did reorder some from me, but not a lot. It was just like little bits here and there. Or if he introduced a new design, then it would be 24 pieces or maybe 48. It would, but not like these quantities.
Not 100 plus, yeah.
Right. So because then I don't know, these restaurants, I mean, you would think they would know that but they don't know that ceramics takes a long time to do.
Right.
So, they want it yesterday. Oh, sorry. That's my hound dog in the background.
I love that.
Can you hear him?
Yeah, we can hear him.
Oh, of course you can. My whole neighborhood can hear him.
Do you want to hear something? I'm interrupting for a second.
It's okay.
I've decided that my cat Lloyd is actually a husky. A husky dog. He's very vocal. He throws tantrums. He follows, but then when he doesn't want to follow, he doesn't follow. He's a husky.
Sounds like it.
I don't know about the husky personality, but I believe you.
I'll send you a video. Well, I did post a video on my story. Yeah.
So you had
Anyway,
Linnea.
continue.
So you had Linnea helping with the taco plates, and then I'm guessing work picked up, and you had other needs for her to help with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So she helped with, when I was doing the Brimstone restaurant group in Florida, she would basically do all my hand-built stuff. So she was doing some oval platters for me. And then when we started slip casting the ramekins, she first made my molds for me, which was amazing. So we kind of had a system with that. She would pour the molds, let them set up, go over. I only have the oval platters I was making are in bisque molds, and I only had 10 of those. So she would fill those up, and then once those were up, start on taco plates, and then cleaning up. And then there was loading, unloading.
That would suck to load and unload a bunch of oval platters and taco plate.
Oh, yeah. But that's like what I was doing. So
what you got to do?
All my, my gas count it's just set up. I don't really take it down unless I need to flip the shelves every once in a while. But the shelves are pretty tight, and I just slide them in, slide them out.
Yeah.
So kind of have a system.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about the gas kiln. So I don't know if that's not common for somebody to have their own gas kiln. First of all, what temperature are you firing to?
So cone 9, cone 10.
Cone 9, cone 10 reduction.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How did that shift? I know you've had it for a number of years now. I'm guessing you were firing gas at Queen City Clay, Funky Fired Arts back in the day.
Yeah.
What kind of got you ready to be is it just necessity? You had to have it once you moved, or what?
Love the way it looks. I love firing the kiln. I fired a lot of the kilns when I was working at the studio. But really, I just love the look of it. And I know you can get pretty similar results with cone 6. And after listening to all these environmental talks at NCECA, it's oh man, I probably should be adjusting and going to cone 6 for just.
Hey now.
Well, some of it's time, right? How much time you're spending firing versus.
Well,
I don't know. Or is it just
your tiny little gas kiln? Your tiny little gas kiln has no effect on this goddamn environment.
I mean, it's not tiny, but it's Imagine how much work you'd have to put in an electric kiln to turn that quantity around.
It's about 3 electric kiln loads that I can fit into.
So it's is it 20 cubic feet?
I think 28.
28 cubic feet. Wow.
Yeah, why the fuck? No, absolutely not. No.
Some
things make sense and some things don't.
Did you have to go through some hurdles to get that on site? How much work was involved in doing that? What obstacles did you have?
Yes, it was mostly more just nerve-wracking because it was a huge investment. It's oh my gosh, somebody's gonna drop this thing and I'm just gonna cry.
Because they probably just drop it in they roll up on a truck and just drop it off on a pallet or something, and then they're all right, I'm hoping they drop it exactly where you want it, but.
Well, so I was actually in charge of arranging all of that. So I had them take it to my dad's work. He worked for a building supply company because it needed to be, I think they had to load it on a loading dock or something. I don't know exactly why we had it there, but from there, so Tate Builder Supply, they delivered it. They brought it to my house, and they had a forklift on the back of their delivery truck. And maybe that's why we had to do it there, because I didn't have a forklift here. So they were able to bring the forklift with the delivery truck, and then had to have extra long forks to get underneath. I mean, there's all these the weight specifications and all the stuff that I worked with Bailey. It's a Bailey kiln, and they were so helpful in making sure that everything was what it needed to be to carry the weight and all of that. And but it's still
And the gas supply, I'm guessing you already had
yeah.
gas
So
supply out there. You just had to get extra run to that pad or what?
right, yep. So we had natural gas brought to the house, and then we ran it from the house out to the kiln shed. So I built a kiln shed, and it helps that my dad is a builder, so he helped
Yeah,
me.
it's a nice looking slab of concrete and a roof, and
Yeah.
I'm guessing the whole. And then you got, I don't know, is there a chimney that goes out the top of the roof, or is it just high enough that it?
Yeah. So all of that had to be to specifications. The distance between the kiln and the roof, and then how tall the chimney is, and all of that, and then getting it into place. So he was only able to take it so far with the forklift, and then we had to get in there with like pallet jack movers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we had two of those, and the way they package it is so nice. It's all in huge wooden crates, and it's all boxed in, and the inside, to hold all the bricks in place and everything. And
Yeah, because you're not planning to move that thing ever. So
I don't know.
Unless you move or you sell it. I
I
don't know.
know. There's a building that might be for sale that's right next door to me. So I
Oh,
might
really?
move it over there at some point. Who knows?
Oh, wow.
I have a question, and you don't have to get into specifics, but for somebody that's like, man, I kind of want to make plates for the rest of my life, are you like comfortable financially right now because of this restaurant situation?
Yes. So, well, right now I'm living with my husband, and so my husband is the primary provider for our family. But at the time when I started doing restaurants, I was really hesitant. I feel, as all artists are, to make the jump to full time. But once I got that NADA job, and we were able to figure out, okay, this is how much we need on a monthly basis. And I was able to work with them because I wanted to know, like, okay, I need to know how much money I can bring in on a monthly basis. One, if I'm paying someone else, and if I can make a living at this.
Hola. I am interrupting the episode because it's that time. It's that time where I get to tell you about L&L and how I'm continuously still so freaking excited about this plug and fire kiln. It is a small kiln, like one that you could put in your apartment or one that you could put in your garage. If it was a small garage, you could put it in a large garage too. That's fine. It's 12.5 amps and it is 120 volts. 12 amps is important because that means that most regular home breakers are 15 amps, and that means that it will not, it won't flip a breaker on a regular plug. And I've definitely done that with the current kiln that I have that's 15 amps. But yeah, so that's really cool. It has a Genesis controller, which means that you can control cool down and stuff, so you can actually do testing in it. It has, it comes in 2 boxes. So it's got the box that the kiln's in and then the box that the controller's in, which means that it's easier to like unplug it if you want to move it. It's, that means that it's a lot easier to do that. It's going to need to be 8 inches by 8 inches on the inside and then 9 inches tall. And everything that's current in the market right now is half that height. So this is big. And yeah, and it goes to cone 10. Are you kidding me? Like, they just did tests on some crystalline glazes. They did crystalline glazes. And I'm no crystalline genius, but I know that it matters that you have to do things and things and things. So I can't remember exactly the price, but it should be around $1,600. And with all of the additions that you get with this, the It's a great price, super great price. I believe they are shipping it through Clay King and a few other distributors. So you can look that up on their website. The website is hotkilns.com. And it should have all the information that you need and plus some more specs on the product. So we are all very excited about it. Me and Ryan are both going to get one, and I'm excited to see how it goes. So, also, I just got, low-key, just got a generator so that I can do it out in the middle of the woods. So I can, fire my kiln out in the middle of the woods. So that's really exciting. Anyway, yeah, I hope you guys go check it out and have a great rest of your episode until I interrupt again about Speedball. Okay, bye.
So once we figured that out, I felt way more comfortable going full time to just running my own pottery business. And that was just one small part of it. I was still providing for Salazar, and then he opened up a new place. And so it was all kind of back to back. And then I still was doing shows and, selling in shops and stuff to all kind of supplement that. But just having that consistent paycheck every month was a big
And
deal.
when did you get married in relation to into this? Like what year? So we can kind of piece it with the years that you've kind of been talking about.
So we got married in 2014. So Nada didn't happen until after 2015.
Yeah. You were saying you were at Funky Fired Arts in like 2012-ish or something like that. Or was it full-time in 2012 or?
Yeah, I started working back at I don't know. It was probably 2000, right after college. So.
Oh, okay.
And I started working there in college too. So I had been there.
2006, 7, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you've been kind of working on this side for a good chunk of time before going full time as well as before you were married.
Right. So I was working full time for the studio and then basically working full time after hours, making kind of like you, Ryan, making pots and selling and that's really how I was able to save for the gas kiln and to be able to build the studio out here, because I already had my full-time job, and then everything extra I made with my pottery I set aside, in a separate bank account, and I was able to save to then get the kiln and do all of that.
I have another question.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, they can't see me, so that's why I'm saying I have another question.
She's like I'm audibly raising my hand, please.
I'm audibly raising my hand because I'm at my parents' house in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, and there's no internet. Okay, 2 questions actually, and I think the first one can be answered quite quickly. Okay, first, are your pots thicker than a normal pot? Would you say that you make them beefier because they're going to restaurants? And then my second question is, have you considered jiggers and not a ram press, but something
of dollies and stuff like that? Is that the?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something where it's more form fitting, not slip casting. I'm going to talk about that, but yeah. Okay, that's my questions.
Okay. So I try not to make my stuff any thicker. I just really like a nice balanced feel. But the ramekins are definitely thicker. But they get burned around the most. They get broken the most. And so Salazar actually just with this last thing, he's like, let's make sure those are thick, because the smaller stuff does get broken a lot easier. So I've been trying to leave it. It's kind of hard. Once you get throwing and you have your feel and all of that, to make it thicker is kind of a challenge sometimes. So not necessarily, I guess, was the short answer to that.
Okay.
But it probably would help. But then I just think about all the servers carrying around. I don't know. I feel like handmade ceramics is already a little heavier than commercially made stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then in terms of doing a jolly and jigger system or anything, I definitely have thought about it. My good friend Christy Goodfellow, who did the presentation with me at NCECA, and it's been awesome to be able to have her as a good friend and a peer, and because we were able to compare notes the whole time, because she kind of started the same time I did, even though we never worked together. We always met up and shared our experiences with each other, and so she kind of went that route, but she had a ton of trouble with it and really getting it to work right. So it didn't really work out in the long run, which is really a shame, because it can work for people. But I don't know.
Because that's what like John O. Pandolfi. I mean, I
yeah,
don't think that's how you say the last name, but like
yeah,
that's really big operations and like East Fork and
Yeah.
things like that. But
right.
I would suspect you're a little limited with. I mean, you have to also have some pretty good plaster skills and other skill sets
Right.
that are pretty intricate. I would suspect.
Right.
Pretty extensive knowledge to make that like initial dive and then the learning curve back up to kind of bypass what you can do throwing, as well as just body. I would guess it's better on your body to use a jigger than.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of thinking.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of had a limit. I only have 40 bats. So in one throwing day, I can only make 40 plates. And then I'm kind of at my limit. So I'm not.
That's a lot of plates.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a
I
lot.
was just thinking
but-
that's not enough bats.
So yeah, I mean that I would make my 40 plates in a couple hours, and the rest of the time it would be making smaller pieces that weren't as hard on my body, or trimming pieces from the day before, all the other things that go with it. So it's not a total constant throwing for 8 hours straight. And that's something I found out right away from that very first restaurant order. Sitting down at the wheel trying to work for 6 hours killed my back, and so pretty much right away I changed to I made my wheel a stand-up wheel, and that helped out tremendously too. But then I've just also been trying to balance my time, so it's not all working at the wheel. But then also too with the mold making and stuff, because I did try the slip casting, just to try to speed it up and so I did have another assistant come in after Linnea, and she was pretty much just in charge of slip casting, which was fine at the time because I had such large quantities coming through. But I really like making the work. I like that one on one with the, and you're just removed. It's just a step removed. It's you're still making it. You're still in the clay process, but it has a different feel. I'm definitely more one. I like when they're not all exactly the same. I mean, obviously they're going to be extremely similar, and they're going to have to stack well and all that stuff when they're going into a restaurant. But I don't really worry so much about them being like right on. I'll measure the first like 3, and then I don't measure anymore. It's like, well, it's going to be
right. As long as the clay that you start with is pretty consistent, weight wise and softness wise.
Yeah.
Just rinse and repeat for the most part.
Yeah. So.
Well, I will say, if you ever consider getting a laser level, wow. Life changing.
I've seen you use it. I know. I should look into it.
Because what I like about it is that it's not like when you use an actual pointer thingy, a gauge, it's very like you have to get it here. And what I like about the laser level is that you can just like, it's close.
You can go past it and then you can go back. It's not invasive.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. Like it's not you don't have to follow it exactly, but it is funny because like I totally agree with you on the fact that I like to throw like that as well. And there's very few people, I feel there's not as many people in the pottery world as you would think that are like, yeah, I could sit down and throw 150 pieces today, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
So do you hate glazing?
No. I really
What art do you
enjoy.
hate?
That's
I
impressive.
I enjoy pretty much all the steps of the maybe not grinding shelves. I'll say that. I don't, and I think that's why I've stuck with it for so long, because I do find joy in all the different parts at some point. And really, with the taco plates, like I was saying, and them giving me the creative freedom, I was pouring the glazes on them. So there was 3 different glazes, and those were always fun. It was hard work, holding, because they were big plates, and it was tiring and all that. But it was just fun because they were all different, and they all came out different, even though they were the same glazes. But I mean, a lot of the stuff is just one glaze. But even with that, there's such subtle differences with dipping a bowl
Mhm.
into a glaze, and because I don't do any brush on work, it's all with, I have bucket glazes that I make. But it's just I just really trying to find the joy in the little things and the subtle differences, and that it always, I don't know. I think those are the things that keep me going.
Yeah. Does it help that it's not a complete loss because you're able to sell them later if they're seconds or if they warp or if something like, because
Mhm.
I think we've got an oval dish that's like a serving dish, and then we've got one of the taco plates that was a second that kind of bowed in the middle because it warped or whatever.
Yeah.
And you always do the home sale and you offer them. Are you still doing those these days?
I haven't done it in a couple years. I think I'm going to bring it back this year.
Ooh.
But yeah, those were always really big. They've always done really well for me, and especially having the seconds. Yeah. Yeah, it helps to know that I'll still be able to sell if they don't quite come out right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So how is the like time balancing with, you said you have boys that are 5 and 7 now. I'm
Hmm.
sure that time has shifted a little bit over the years because I'm sure the youngest was in the house semi recently, how has that shifted over time, having the family life as well as the home life with the studio all in the same place?
Yes. Yep. It's been interesting. It's been a constant learning process because they're changing all the time. I don't know. At first, I really didn't change anything. I mean, I was loading that gas. I installed the gas kiln in late November, so I was eight months pregnant, I guess, at that point, and fired my first kiln like a week before I had Wesley, my first baby. Um, and I really didn't stop. I don't know. I was definitely addicted. I probably still am, but I've learned to cut back a lot. Um, and and my mom helped out a lot. She watched the boys for me when they were little, and I would still continue working. And being able to work from home, it was kind of a blessing and a curse sometimes because I had my work days, um, but it's just so hard to separate my work life from home life because it is in my home. Um, and so after taking care of the boys, then I could come back down at night and work in the studio. This is when they were really little, and I still do this too today, but it was hard to separate at first because I would want to work all day long while still caring for them some days. And sometimes they would come down here and I would set up a playpen in the studio, and they would be on my back or I'd carry them, and I would still be trying to do whatever I could.
Wow.
Um, and they definitely have made lots of little things down here. They love being down here. It's a lot harder for me to get work done when they're down here with me, but I'm still able to do stuff. And they love making their little figures. And the boys have both been on the wheel quite a bit, which is fun. So um, I don't know. I don't know if I'm really answering your question. It's just been every year has been different as they've gotten older, and
So is it a lot of holding yourself to standards so that you have enough time with them because otherwise you would keep working, or is it is it like a give and take with your husband to figure out where the lines are and what expectations are of, we want to plan to do things, but also like this is part of our how you make a living. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're many years into doing it full time, but I would
Yeah.
suspect it doesn't necessarily get easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jake has definitely he's taken a lot on as a dad and taking care of them in the evenings and stuff on the days that I'll have them during the day. And then, when I am working at night. So he's definitely taken on a lot with that, which I'm, so thankful for that he's been able to do that. And same when I'll do shows on the weekend and stuff, which I've tried to pare down more and more just to be with them as Jake has become more and more of a provider, and I've been able to cut back more and more, which has been such a blessing. I know not everybody's able to do that. So the pressure has come off a lot in recent years. So I haven't had to work as much full time. So I've been able to spend more time with the boys, which has been great. And I've been wanting to do that. This is their little years, and it's like I said, they're already going to be in school. Well, Simon will be in school full time next year, so it's kind of I'm excited to get back in the studio more, but I'm also a little sad because my babies are all grown up. So I don't know. But yeah, it's been challenging definitely at times, but it's not impossible at all. I wouldn't change it for the world. Yeah, just kind of living and learning and keep
Yeah.
on moving on.
You just had Mother's Day yesterday, so hopefully it was a good day for you.
Yes, it was wonderful. They brought me breakfast and I got to relax, and it was nice.
Sweet. I was curious. I know it's shifting now. Where is that sales breakdown now? Is the restaurants the majority these days? I know I don't see you at shows as much these days, but we could not cross paths at certain shows. But how are you kind of breaking down where your sales are coming from, whether it's revenue or just time spent?
Yeah, so the majority still, I would say, is coming from restaurants. That's the bulk of it. And then dinnerware sets for people would come second, and then my shops. So when I'm making the orders for restaurants, or for the dinner sets, I'll make extra pieces that I'm not, I don't have an order for, that I can add into the kiln. And so all those extra pieces will go into the shops. For a while I was still doing shows. I love doing shows. I love being out in person and talking with people, but it became harder to do with the boys and missing out on all the weekends with them as well as time during the week. So that's why I kind of stopped doing the shows, just to be able to have some actual family time, because we were both working a lot. And it, ended up being fine to be able to. And it was kind of a hard choice, because when the restaurant work, I'm already getting just a percentage of, a retail price, but shops too, when you're sending your work away, you're only making half, you're still covering your costs, but when you're at a show and you're bringing in more money in a sense that way. So it was hard to make that cut. But it was worth it, and I'll be back out there at shows soon enough.
Yeah. So for the shops, are you strictly doing wholesale with them, or are you doing some consignment where it's a different percentage?
It is, yeah. So I guess the two main shops that I do some wholesale, for some like planters and things, which is very fun because it's totally different and it's very low key, no pressure to make those. I've done a couple different shops for that, and those are wholesale. But the other ones where I can kind of just make whatever, they'll take the consignment ones. And so, yeah, they do a 60-40 split.
Yeah. Okay. Becca, I've been asking a ton. Do you have any last questions? I know we're a little bit over because we were talking about doing a shorter one, but Becca, what you got over there?
I
always just assume we're just going to do a long one all the
Well,
time.
Bethany scheduled an hour, but I didn't want to. I mean, we're already over that, but I didn't want to push it too much. I didn't know she had other commitments, but
I'm good. Either way.
all right.
What is your favorite color?
Well, you know what I always say to this is fuchsia.
Fuchsia. That sounds
That's
like a
a
color
good
that Becca's been
one.
trying to figure out with underglaze.
I don't know if
True
I would
that.
ever wear it, but it's the color that makes me very happy when I see it.
That's like a front door color, right? That's
Ooh.
like,
It sounds like
I
a
always
Rachel
say,
color. I think our entry table is probably fuchsia or close to
yeah,
it.
your entry table is fuchsia. I always tell people when they're, well, when I used to work with paint, and they'd pick out their front door, they're like, but it doesn't match. And I was like, your front door is not supposed to match your house. Your front door is supposed to match your soul.
Yeah, I agree.
What color's your front door, Bethany?
It's not fuchsia, but now I'm thinking maybe it should
Get
be.
on it.
I feel like
It's
yours would be like a
like-
yellow or something, or like
It's-
a mustard earthy yellow or
It's pretty close to that. It's a little more green though. Very like
Ooh,
earthy
goose shit green.
green.
not goose shit green.
Hey, don't knock goose shit green. Goose shit green's a wonderful green.
I don't think I know what that is.
It's
It looks
a poopy green.
goose
It
shit.
doesn't sound good.
I know. That doesn't sound good.
It's when you mix chartreuse and olive together. That's what goose
Okay.
shit green is.
Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah. The front
It's a
door.
great color.
Oh man. Now I'm not gonna get that out of my head. That's right.
So I have another question. What about your making cycle? Like, do you get bogged down and like bored with making the same thing because you're making two orders? Like, how do you keep that spice, I guess, or like feel like I know you say you love the parts of the process, but how do you not get like bored, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I just switch it up. Like I'll have a big batch of something. Like right now I'm making like a low wide pasta bowl. But I'll make 4 mugs first when I come down or something, and then I'll get into the pasta bowl so that the next day I come in, I'm doing handles and trimming the mugs before I get into trimming. So it's not just all the same thing. So I try to add in some little pieces. Like I was saying, that might go into shops or something else later. And I have like a little display in my studio too that a lot of people will come just to the studio to shop. So I like to have random things in that too. So I'll play around with different things. And it was really nice for NCECA that Christy and I had that show. And so I was able to take some time to really explore total new shapes, new forms. So every once in a while I'll do that. And that's really refreshing too, just to kind of go completely off of production, make larger pieces, do more sculptural stuff. So that's really refreshing just to do that every once in a while. But honestly, sometimes when I get into that, it can be frustrating when you're doing new forms and things aren't working out. And it's like, oh, I just need to get back to the wheel and just make some plates and, because it can be so mindless. And
yeah, I think for me, the soda firing has like introduced something new that's like, I'm like starting at square one and I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I can like test and figure out what I want to do. But I don't feel the pressure. Like this has to sell or,
right.
But I don't know. It's, yeah. Do you like throw in like new glazes every now and then? Or, because I mean, having the kiln there and having ample kiln space, I would think that you could throw in some tests here and there or.
Yeah. I have on accident.
On accident? Like you mix up a glaze wrong?
Yeah. There's been a couple times where a couple glazes will get like mixed together when they're getting combined from like old buckets to new buckets or something. Or raw material get mixed in, but they've actually been like really pleasant surprises and I've been using them still. But I haven't, other than that, And when I first started, I played around a lot more. I haven't really tried a whole lot of new glazes because that just takes a lot of
Yeah, I
time.
find it hard to like break from the set of standard glaze. I mean, I've already got enough glazes, but I don't know how many you have, but I would guess if you got like 8 to 10, like that's plenty. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And adding a new one's challenging and then you got to mix the quantity, and then you're like, what complements it, or does it just stand by itself? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's been, well, lately I've had to restock like all of my raw materials. And with all the changes that have been happening with all the raw materials, just, I don't know, last month I was going through and looking at new glazes, and it's like, well, maybe I'll start experimenting again, and to figure out how I'm going to work these recipes I've been using forever, but having to change out some of the raw materials. So that's kind of exciting. I mean, again, it's one of those things like, man, I wish I didn't have to do this because,
Mm-hmm.
I've had these glazes that are so consistent, but I think it'll be fun too because it might bring about something totally new. So
I would suspect with Fire and Cone 10, Cone 9, you kind of have to mix your own glazes, right? Is there a big market for commercial glazes at that temperature?
I don't think so. I've never seen any. I don't know. Not to say it's not out there, but yeah, I've always just mixed my own.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So with the did you have to do some testing and whatnot with the plates and durability and all that? I know there's some talk of I'm listening for Fluxake a lot more like recently, and they're talking about like absorption rates and durability and crazing and all this stuff that's like, I want to say restaurant level or like food grade. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you have to go through some of that or figure out what standards you had for yourself or some of those restaurants required of you getting into this?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes to mind with that is one time I was making work for Mitas, and let me try to remember this right. I think I switched clay bodies, but I was using the same, it was a clear glaze, but the clay was meant for cone 9 or something, but I was firing it to cone 6. And so the glaze crazed. And when they went to the restaurant, I did not catch it at all when I was making them. And I sent them thinking no big deal. And they all, the hot liquids going into these bowls eventually were like cracking them off.
Oh,
So that that was not a fun time because they lost a ton of pieces. And I don't know if you can,
but you
imagine.
happen to be fire into cone 6 for some reason for those?
Yeah, so that was early on, and I was doing everything. I was firing cone 6 oxidation, cone 9, and
Mm-hmm.
cone 10 reduction. So that was a huge learning curve. After that happened, I was like, okay, I really need to pay attention to exactly, matching my clay and my glazes, to not have that happen again. So I've tried to be really careful with that and making sure that it's been a really good fit. Because there's definitely some glazes, I've tried some Sheena glazes and stuff, and it's just hasn't been good enough of a fit
Is a
to
lot of
work.
that just avoiding the glaze? Because I would suspect it gets
Yeah,
kind of tricky and challenging to change the recipes to what you need.
right. Yeah. So I'm just using, the recipes that I know that are going to be consistent and safe. But then, I do use some glazes that'll pinhole on me when the kiln is firing in a certain way. And so I have to watch that, and I might lose some, but I'm still using the glazes because I love them. And even though I have some trouble with them every once in a while. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I would guess that that's a big, I want to say hurdle for some people to get over as a maker, to be like, what standards do I have to get them to?
Hmm.
And I don't know if it's just up to the restaurant whether they're going to ask for those specs or not, or if it's Because I would hate to find out after you deliver 60 bowls or something that they all cracked or they start, and then they're like, okay, well, we want replacements. And you're like,
Right.
oh,
Well,
shit.
and a lot of, in my experience, a lot of the chefs or creative designers or owners, they really don't know. They don't, unless you tell them. I had Salazar at one point, I think it might have been him. He was wanting some glazes that had just a lot of crawling and different things going on. And it's like, I don't think that's food safe, and so I've had to bring that to the attention of some people that they're just interested. Could we do something like this? Well, you want to keep it in the best interest of your customers and make sure it's food safe, not necessarily with leaching, because all of the glazes I use don't, are not leaching any kind of chemicals or anything, but more of with how the glaze is reacting with the clay body and stuff like that is what I've come across.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then I would guess like putting them through those big dishwashers and like restaurant level, you get confidence that okay, this can stand up to it.
Yeah, which is nice. It's a nice selling point for other people that are wanting to buy these. Can you really put these in the dishwasher? Can you really put these in the microwave or whatever? It's like, well, they're going through the commercial dishwashers and whatever they can handle. So
yeah. I'm leaving a gap for Becca to raise her hand vocally.
Oh, I was just thinking about those commercial dishwashers. This really has nothing to do with anything, but I was thinking about those commercial dishwashers and how they wash dishes in like literally 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And why do our regular dishwashers not wash our dishes in 5 minutes? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's a big difference.
It's really ridiculous.
Why is it so efficient? Is it the heat? Is it just such high heat?
It's high heat and it's a lot more pressure, I think. I mean,
yeah, it's a lot more pressure.
And dishwashers.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they'll knock socks off.
They'll knock your socks off? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
They probably would.
So then the dishwashers are not killing your plates. It's more like people bumping them or dropping them and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably getting lit when they're loaded into like the bus bins when they're clearing the tables and just like throwing them in kind of deal.
Yeah.
If at the larger restaurants. At the smaller ones, they're hand carrying everything and taking care with them. But
I wonder if you could like get in with one of the waitresses or the waiters and be like, hey, can we make sure we're breaking at least 2 pots a month? Like,
what's our quota for
not
breakage?
enough so that they're like not enough so that they're like they're like these dishes don't hold up enough. Not enough for that, but like enough so that they're like we have to order more.
I've had some servers joke about that with me because I have to go to these places and experience the food on the plates, and if I make it known, I make these plates. I've had some requests.
Okay, here's my next question. Are you in these contracts? Are you negotiating food situations?
No, like of them giving me free
I think
food.
this needs to happen.
I was going to ask about contracts, but I wasn't thinking that level of contract.
Yeah.
Negotiations.
I mean, a lot of times I'll go because I've built up relationships when I'm working with the chef, because there's been a lot of times where I'm working with like an owner and I don't have any contact, but the smaller ones, they're usually always bringing me out drinks and food and whatever. But I still want to support them too.
And they're nicer restaurants. Like from what I've heard, I haven't been to Salazar. I think we try to get a reservation there. It's pretty tough to get a reservation there. Becca, maybe you and I need to go there, and Rachel, when you're in town sometime.
Oh shit! I'm gonna look it up. Salazar.
He's got at least 2 or 3 in Cincinnati, right?
Yes. So actually, he closed down the smaller Salazar, the original, And that's what I'm working on right now. He's opening up like a Salazar 2.0, so it's going to be a lot bigger. And the restaurant, he's just changing the restaurant that's in that same location. It's going to have a Moroccan kind of feel. So I sent some ramekins. Actually, there's some right here. These little babies.
Ooh.
So
those green.
Yeah. Those went to this like Moroccan place. I think it's called Safi in Cincinnati. So that's not quite open yet. That'll be open soon. And then I don't think Salazar like 2.0 is going to be open until next like early spring. So that'll be some time. He has Mitas downtown. But
does he have something in Memphis?
I don't think so.
Maybe that was just an article. Memphis.
So is the original Salazar the over the Rhine version? That location, is that the original one you're talking about that he's going to reopen?
Yes. Yep. Salazar
Restaurant on Republic Street, temporarily closed. Okay. That was the one we were trying to get a reservation for at one point, I think.
Yeah, so good. So good. But Baker's Table is also amazing.
Yep, we have been to Baker's Table. They've shifted a little bit. I think they had the bakery at one point, or the pizza. They had the other place across the street. Did you make some things for them as well when they opened that second location?
Yes, yep. I did some small plates and then some coffee cups, 2 different sizes of coffee cups for him there. But then he ended up shifting everything back over to the main restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So
we used to get their lunch during COVID. They had this fried chicken Sammy. Oh my gosh, it was so good. During COVID, I think it had a hot honey on top and slaw. It was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rachel and I would do that on Fridays as takeout, and it was delicious. I don't think they have that anymore, but yeah, they're more farm to table, so they change up their menu quite a bit.
Yeah. Yep.
So for Becca mentioned the contracts, but what kind of, have you always had contracts with them? Is it something that you initiate? Do they initiate? What kind of details are in there?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I don't know if this is considered a contract or not. I mean, I would write up a quote for them based on everything we talked about and numbers. And so just like as an example here, I have some, quantity and item and a description of the item, basically to keep communication with everything. So I try to be as descriptive as possible.
So they're not changing colors and quantities and things like that.
Right. Might have clay body, glaze, what type of firing it's going into, that kind of stuff. And I lay that out. And then the price, the wholesale price, and then the totals. And so most of the time, I will do a 50% down payment at once everything is agreed upon. Then they'll pay that upfront, the 50%, and then I'll start making. And then once everything is completed, then they'll do the second 50%. And then, depending on shipping, if I'm doing that, I have to figure out those costs, and then those will be added on later, or do a separate invoice for that or something. So, and really,
as long as the invoice is pretty detailed, that's a contract in a sense, so that all the details are agreed upon. And
I have had to write out things before because some people just, I don't know, don't get that ceramics is going to break or it's going to chip, if it's not handled properly. So I've had complaints in the past. So when I'm in conversation with them, if it's a new person, then I make sure to say that, these are all handmade items. They're not going to be exactly alike. There are going to be differences. They're all going to be very similar, but the size may shift a little bit. I have the sizes on here, like within the item, and the description. I might say like a 10-inch plate or something. Well,
within a half an inch, or like something like that? Like
Yeah.
between 9.5 to 10.5 or something?
Yeah, I mean, I get pretty close, but they might be like 10 and a quarter or a little, you know,
Okay.
9 and 7/8 or something. I don't know. You know, they're not going to be right on. So I let them know that. And, you know, once we have that conversation, seem to be a lot of them are very understanding of that. And sometimes I have to remind them of that if they come back and say, well, these were a little bigger. And then, you know, I might have to say that again to them because there's only so much I can do that's in my control because I'm not making them buy a machine. You know, I'm not.
You don't have molds or,
Right.
you
And
know, a jigger or something to make them.
if they wanted that exact kind of thing, then they can go other places for that. So that's kind of my like attitude behind it. I don't know. So I have written out things, you know, that say that there might be variation to the color of the glaze because of the way I'm firing, especially. So that's been one of the things that has been a lot more pressure on me. That's one of the things I love about the gas kiln is that I get so much variation within the glazes with each firing, but I have to really make sure that the client is on the same page and that they totally understand that. And I'll give them examples starting out like this is the glaze in one firing and this is the glaze in another firing, and it might be light blue or it might be like a seafoam green. So
yeah, it's not like the white bowls behind you there where it's
range,
okay,
right?
look pretty much the same.
Right. So, and if they want more consistent, then they'll go with that kind of glaze. So, you know, laying out all the options. And I'll say, you know, I'm firing to 2,300 degrees. It makes for strong, durable clay body and it can withstand commercial dishwashers, but mishandling or rough handling may lead to cracking, chipping, breaking, which is not repairable and is the owner's responsibility. You know, like
once I hand them over and they arrive safely, it's all on you.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, I've had chefs come back, can you repair this? Can you do this? I have played around with adding gold and things like that, but it's just not a sustainable, like, long-term thing that can happen.
What's the typical timeline? Because I know you've mentioned some 2 months and things like that. What is your average? I'm not sure when they're typically ordering dishware when they're opening a restaurant, but
I would say average that over the years, it's probably been about 6 months from initial conversations to doing some samples and then getting the order out. I would say that would be average. Now it's taking me a little bit longer just because I'm not making as much, but.
And they understand that it's just you. It is just you these days, right? You don't have help. Yeah.
Oh, hello, it's me again. I am just interrupting because I can. No, I wanted to tell you about the amazing new things that Speedball has for everyone coming up. So, first of all, I wanted to mention, because I think it should be mentioned, that they have released a Cone 5-6 glaze series, and it's phenomenal. Ryan's done some testing on that. I have not, just because I don't necessarily do a lot with flowy type glazes anymore, so not my wheelhouse, but that's okay. I've seen the tests, they're great, and I wanted to mention that. And then also, as we have discussed, the new formula for Speedball is greatly improved, and what's great about the new formula is that, they took everything that all of these people that already use Speedball said and was like, how do we make it better? And they did it. They have a freaking chemist. Like, the chemist actually comes to Ensika. He's great. He has 8 children. But yeah, and the colors are phenomenal. They still have the great colors that they have, and the color, like, they're just so solid. I don't even need 3 coats of the colors. I just need 2. But obviously that depends on everybody, how they, apply their underglaze. But it's very painterly underglaze now. It's thinner. It's great for sgraffito. and it dries differently than the old underglaze, so that is really great. But it still dries really quickly on bisque, which is something that you do want. So yeah, go check it out. You can look at all those colors and all the new products at speedballart.com. They also sell through Blick, and I believe they sell through Clay King. So check those out. And then also, they're coming out with some brand new colors of bats, and you're going to want to pay attention because somebody that you may be listening to right now might be collaborating and might have a color that is associated with their podcast. So just keep an ear out because we are excited not only to do ads for Speedball, but to also just work with them on certain projects too. So check them out at speedballart.com. Let's see if I can do the little jingle. The SPEED BALL Speedball. So anyway, and we'll let you continue your show. I won't interrupt again. Okay, bye.
Oh, I was just thinking of the. Obviously, a lot of them are stackable, but some of those like oval ones you have, are they tough to make sure that they can because if they've got like 50 oval platters, like they've got to be able to stack in their restaurant, or I mean bowls like the ones behind you, those stack easily. Is that a consideration you've had to shift a little bit to make sure that you reduce breakage, but also like it's space efficient?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've had to make adjustments on plates after the initial batch has gone out. Then they'll come back and say, these aren't stacking as well as we need them to save space in the restaurant. Can we adjust the shape? And so I'll have to go back and adjust. Same thing with the knotted taco plates, but the original form had pointed corners on the rectangle, and I ended up rounding those out because those were breaking off way easier than the rounded corners. So things like that, I definitely have had to make slight adjustments over time. And so after doing that, now coming in with somebody new, I'm able to bring that to their attention right away when we're looking at different, the designs and their space, what they have to store the pieces and stuff like that. That all comes into consideration for sure.
Okay. I know there was another question I was thinking of. The iteration and the test, like, are you accounting for that at all? I'm guessing you don't that's just like time you have to spend to get the job essentially. So is that counted in your like admin quote unquote portion of the price that you're kind of coming to?
Not necessarily. When I was first making pieces and they wanted something specific, I would charge for a sample. So either, sometimes it might just be if it's a shape or something that I've already made, but they're wanting a different glaze or something kind of minimal, I will just charge like a retail price for that. But if I'm consulting back and forth with them a lot over a design and I'm playing around with the making, then I've charged more for like a design fee plus the sample. So I've done that several times. I've really tried to make sure I'm covering my butt on all ends, whether that's maybe charging more for an hourly rate for my labor, knowing that I'm going to miss some of the things at some point, and so I might not get paid that hourly rate, but I'm setting the bar, at a pretty decent rate so that if I'm missing anything else, you know what I mean, then I wouldn't necessarily get paid that.
And you're typically going to have to make a percentage more than the total. Let's say you're delivering 50, you're probably going to have to make 10% or 15% more items to prep for breakage or whatever that happens.
Yeah, yep, definitely.
Okay. Becca.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I was just giving you opportunity.
Might fall asleep. Listening to me ramble on.
There's a test. I want to know, you were talking about shipping stuff.
This has been extremely interesting.
So, when you're shipping stuff to like Florida, how are you packing and shipping this stuff safely? Because you're
I-
shipping hundreds of pieces.
I did have that question at the beginning.
Yeah, so the first shipment, when I had a bunch, I went through, I don't even remember now, but it was a semi came to the studio. I had everything boxed up. I was making the work here, but since they had a loading dock there, I took it up and they took a pallet and I wrapped, like I boxed everything in the boxes really well. I didn't double box them, I don't think. But then,
So you're just
shrink
putting them
wrap.
in what, like 12 by 12 by 12 boxes?
Yeah, just whatever they, would fit the best so that they're snug in there. I've bought boxes from a local company that has lots of different sizes, so I kind of always have a stock of different sizes that, that are close to the shapes that I'm making for the restaurants. And so if I'm sending just shipping down boxes, so for any of the reorders, then I would double box them. So, if it's just like a 10-inch bowl, I would put them in a 10-inch box and just put like a single sheet of like corrugated cardboard in between each bowl. So it might be like 10 bowls to a box if it was like a 10 by 10, or I don't know, maybe it was only 8 bowls. But so then I would double box that. So then I would go into a 14-inch by 14-inch box and put peanuts around the outside of the 10-inch box. So I would do that for all my different sizes, depending. The smaller bowls, I might do like 4 to a box and then put cardboard dividers. I used a lot of cardboard in between the pieces, but then double box them using the packing peanuts in between the 2 boxes. So, I mean,
and you're only putting 4 in there, or are you doing 4 and then doing the horizontal dividers, and then you're putting a flat piece on top and then putting another layer?
Yeah. So total, there might be, I don't know, 24 bowls in one box for a smaller bowl.
Okay.
So I
The
stack them
ramekins,
all.
yeah.
Yeah, and the ramekins, I would just wrap those in a sheet of paper. So just like craft paper, I would wrap those in a sheet of craft paper, stack those all up, and I might get 70 in a box. So, or 80, whatever, and then double box that. So those were definitely heavier. It was quite a bit in shipping costs, but
because what service do you get to come pick it up on, like a semi truck?
Well, so that was just for the first initial order where I did that. I used a carrier. And
do they set that up and they just give you a date and time when they're going to come pick it up, or
I set it up.
you have to set it up?
Yeah, I know that like FedEx has a box that you can order on a pallet, and you can put things in that way to ship out. I didn't do that, but that might be a little easier. And for where I live, when I'm doing the shipping out of just like individual boxes, I just went through USPS because I'm out a little bit further. And so it didn't really work out with UPS or FedEx, but
so it's a bunch of individual boxes that are just labeling each one and just putting it out there.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. That's a lot.
It was a lot. So shipping would be a whole day. We would set aside after we unload. And
yeah. Are you accounting for that time and labor and materials in your contract and your deposit and everything like that?
So for shipping, that it would all be included in my shipping cost. So I would send a separate invoice, and it would be like shipping and handling. So the time to package and deal with all that would all go into that invoice. Yeah.
Do you charge your labor differently for shipping and handling labor versus making labor?
No.
No. So it's all the same price. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I mean, if you mess up that part, you're screwed. So you don't want to half-ass it at the very last part.
Right. Yeah. Shipping, it can be exhausting because it's like there's a little stress to that because it's all this work going in and then you're just sending it away hoping it's going to get there. But thankfully, I have never lost a box to a restaurant. I lost one box when I just sent to a lady with like 5 plates and they all broke. Like, I don't know what happened, but the box was like smashed.
Oh no.
So
Shit.
that's the only time I've ever lost anything.
Well, I would
shipped.
suspect with your stacking ability for the plates, that's helping with shipping for sure.
Yeah, just as long as the ceramics aren't touching each other and they're not able to move around, then you should be good to go. And then giving it that padding.
Mhm.
So I made sure it was really snug in there, nothing shifted at all, and
Yeah.
it seemed to be all right.
Okay. So what are you looking forward to the rest of the year?
Business wise or
Sure. Anything.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to finishing this order for Salazar, but I've got lots of time, so that's been nice. I have lots of time for that. But personal wise, we just got chickens this year. This
Oh,
has been
really?
my life, yeah. So we're gonna get eggs in July, maybe. We got
Oh,
them as
nice.
baby chicks. So
Baby
I'm
chicks
looking
from
forward
now, and they start having eggs in like 2 months.
Well, yeah. So when they're about 6 months old or something, 5, 6 months, I don't know, something like that. It's our
Oh,
first
okay.
time doing it, so I'm learning lots.
Nice. Yeah, there's a lot. We're at the end of a cul-de-sac, so there's a bunch of trees back there. We always hear coyotes and stuff. And I was like, would I ever have like chickens or hens or something someday? Like, I don't know if I want to upkeep that, but I mean, it would be kind of cool, but I don't know that we eat eggs that much, but
Yeah. You just have to fence them in real good.
yeah, protect them.
Yeah.
No roosters though. Do you have did you get a rooster?
Well, we weren't supposed to, but little Pete has become a rooster. But it makes the cutest little like ooh, not quite.
Until it gets older, and then and then your neighbors will start complaining.
No, so I don't know what we're gonna do with that. But he's really cute. He's a little silky. So he's got like a furry top. He's got lots of hair up here and
Oh,
or
okay.
feathers. Not hair. It looks like hair.
I actually did look
How
up
about ducks?
for our city, like what is the rules on the chickens or hens or whatever, and it was like you can have no roosters, you can have hens or whatever, and they have to be they have to be housed within 20 feet from all edges of your property.
Okay.
I guess that's based on sound and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, that's what
Do
I was
it.
told.
You could do it, Ryan.
Becker, you getting duck? What'd you mention about ducks?
I think you should get ducks.
There's actually, I don't know why, but there's a house up the street that's like halfway up that there's always like 3 little ducks. Not little ducks, but they're adults, and they're always kind of like chilling out under this tree. I don't know if they make a walk during certain time of day and they're always just kind of like right there. I don't know if there's a waterway. Somehow they're getting up there, but they're pretty cute. They just kind of like sit there underneath the tree, and I walk by them when I go to the post office every few days.
Also, duck eggs are really good.
I don't think I've ever had a duck egg. Have you, Bethany?
I have once. Definitely it was like more meaty or something. Don't you think?
Is it like more yolky or something?
They're bigger. They're
Yeah.
obviously bigger. But I don't know. They're like more buttery.
Hmm. Did you eat like scrambled? Is that kind of like a bastardized way to do it? You probably like fry it. Just eat it on like fried egg sandwich? Becca, it sounds
Yeah,
like you had them.
I would probably eat it fried. I mean, like, we just ate them like regular eggs, like in everything.
Oh, so you did you have ducks back in the day?
Oh, well, I lived in a place that had ducks.
Oh.
In my many rented homes, rooms.
The ducks were in the house?
No, they were with the chickens.
Okay. Do they lay as frequently though?
I don't know. I don't know that part.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
You ever see Leanne with her ducks and stuff? Did you see back in the day when she had she probably still does, but she's got the big basin and it's got the water and the ducks swimming in it, and I saw her cleaning it out a couple times and that looked like quite the undertaking. You got to drain it and clean it out and refill it, and kind of gross. Seemed like a big undertaking. It seems like
Yeah.
the chickens with the coop seems a little more doable, not having to deal with water and all that stuff.
Yeah, they're still kind of messy.
I think friends of ours have chickens. I think they just let them roam and like eat in certain areas, and then they like come back or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, Becca, any last questions or words before we let Bethany go?
No, this has been so informative and very lovely.
Yeah, thanks for the time. I know the restaurant owners, there's not many people that I know that we could kind of ask about this, and I've been asking you for a bit, so I'm glad you're willing to get on. We had a little timing figuring out when it could work, but
Yep. No,
glad
it's
you
good.
made time for it.
Yep, it's been a great experience. I don't know. It's kind of led me down the path. I never thought I would be making work for restaurants, but here I am.
I mean, in a way,
But have
if you
fun.
like just the process of making, it seems like a perfect fit, because if you don't want to, I mean, it sounds like you did enjoy the shows, but if you don't want to do that hustle and bustle and making the work and like, is it going to sell? What do people like? You
Right.
got to work with fewer people and you don't have to make as many forms.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally different. Because my focus is already there with the orders, especially with the quantities I was working with. I mean, I had very set goals for each day, and still do, because I have numbers I have to meet. So it's, unless you're making that for yourself, um, for your shows, and I know a lot of people do that, and I tried to do that with shows, but it was just so much more loosely organized with that, which is nice in its own way too. But I tend to thrive with structure in that way. When
Mm-hmm.
I have the orders, then
You're going in with intention and you know exactly that this thing's going to sell because it's already promised to somebody, and
right.
you just got to execute at the end of the day. So,
Yep.
yeah, I would guess there's a lot of questioning of, okay, what do I need in the booth? What fills the booth? What like different colors do I want? How do I want to set it up? Because your booth you did have very nice booth setups from the years that I've been doing shows next to you, and it takes a big undertaking. And your booth always looked like that, like really good.
I always thought it was a big cluster F all the time. Just throwing it together. What's it gonna look like this time?
Yeah. Well, you do it enough, it's like, okay, this
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, Bethany. So if people can find you, you mentioned at the very beginning, if you want to book in, let people know where they can find you and
Yes,
look at
so
what you have available.
I am on Instagram and Facebook, although I have not been posting very often, but I have lots of stuff from the past there. My website is just bethanyrosepottery.com. So there's lots of examples of the different restaurants that I've done. They're all kind of pictured there on the website. And you can contact me through there or through the social media platforms too.
Sweet.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, Bethany, appreciate your time.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hopefully I'll see you soon.
All right.
All
Bye.
right. Thanks, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to another episode of Wheel Talk. This podcast is made possible through the contributions of all of our listeners who always ask us great questions, leave us reviews, and contact with us through social media. Thanks to all the fellow makers as well who take time to be interviewed and share about their lives and businesses.
And thank you to Ashley from Boldover Ceramics and Lindy from Lindy Garner Ceramics for their assistance on the Whale Talk Podcast Instagram. You are invaluable. Thank you to everybody.